Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When was the last time someone made you feel small and you just let it happen? When was the last time you rewrote yourself, softened your words, swallowed your opinion, rearranged your whole personality just so someone else could stay comfortable? You burned yourself to keep them warm and had the nerve to call it loyalty. You did it because you were taught that being emotional makes you human, that reacting makes you relatable, that wearing your heart on your sleeve is some kind of honesty. But here is what no one told you. To the wrong people, and most people are the wrong people, your emotions are not your humanity. They are your leash. Every time you react, you hand them the rope. Every time you explain yourself, you advertise your weak points. Every time you beg to be understood, you are drawing them a map of exactly where to hit you. This is not a self-help video. There is no warmth here, no gold star for your feelings. What this is a dismantling, a cold, precise removal of every emotional habit that has made you easy to read, easy to use, and easy to break. By the end of this, you will not be softer. You will be unreachable. Carl Jung believed that every person carries a shadow, a suppressed, darker dimension of the self that civilization trains you to hide. Your anger, your indifference, your capacity for a silence so deep it makes people nervous. Jung never said the shadow was evil. He said it was power, raw, unrefined, but power all the same. The tragedy is not that most people have no shadow, it is that they are terrified of their own. Machiavelli understood this long before psychology had a name for it. In The Prince, he observed that a ruler who is completely merciful, completely open, completely predictable will always be used. The greatest leaders in history were not loved unconditionally, they were respected absolutely. And respect, unlike love, never asks you to be vulnerable. The Stoics completed the picture. Marcus Aurelius, a man running an empire while surrounded by loss, betrayal, and collapse, wrote in his private journals, not for glory, but for discipline. You do not suffer from what happens to you. You suffer from your judgment of what happens. Take away the judgment. Take away the handle they use to drag you wherever they want. Emotional unreachability is not coldness as a lifestyle. It is Jung's shadow, Machiavelli's strategy, and Stoic discipline converging into one unshakable position. You feel everything. You are governed by nothing. That gap between those two sentences is where real power lives. Here is the first thing most people get completely wrong. The moment someone challenges them, misreads them, or accuses them of something, they explain, they clarify, they make their case. And it feels dignified, it feels reasonable, but it is not. It is desperation wearing a calm face. Every explanation you give is a quiet confession that their opinion of you matters enough to correct. You are not defending yourself, you are auditioning. What changes everything is learning to sit in silence without flinching, not because you have nothing to say, but because you have decided their question doesn't earn an answer. The next time someone demands you justify yourself, say nothing. Hold eye contact. Let the air thicken. The discomfort you feel in that moment is precisely what they experience when they realize they have no leverage over your story. Over time, people start to sense that you operate differently. They cannot read you. They cannot predict you. And what they cannot predict, they cannot easily control. The second thing, you are too visible with your emotions. You celebrate loudly, grieve openly, react immediately. In art, that kind of transparency is beautiful. In a room with someone who wants to use you, it's a detailed map of your pressure points. The manipulator in your life is not cataloging your strengths, they are cataloging your reactions. What makes you flinch, what makes you defensive, what makes you desperate. Jung talked about learning to feel without performing. Feel the anger, but do not broadcast it. Let it move through you the way a storm moves through an empty building. The exterior stays still, the interior processes. This is not the same as suppression. Suppression builds pressure until something explodes. This is containment, and containment is one of the underrated forms of power a person can develop. When you stop reacting visibly, you stop being interesting to people who feed on reaction. Pull the food away, and they starve. Most people exhaust themselves trying to seem trustworthy. They perform loyalty. They perform reliability. They work overtime to make others feel safe around them. And this is entirely backwards. You should not be auditioning for other people. They should be auditioning for you. Machiavelli had a simple observation. Time and pressure reveal character more accurately than anything else. So stop confronting people. Stop testing them with dramatic setups. Just wait. Give them room and watch what they do with it. Pull back slightly and see where they go. Silence is not passivity, it's information gathering. The person who shows up when you are visible and disappears when you are not has already told you everything you needed to know. You didn't need to ask. When you live this way, betrayal stops being a surprise. You saw it from a distance, adjusted your position quietly, and moved on. No scene, no confrontation, just clarity. The hunger to be understood is one of the deepest vulnerabilities a person can have, and the people who want to control you know exactly how to exploit it. They withhold understanding and dole it out as a reward for compliance. They make you feel that if you just explained yourself better, performed yourself more clearly, they would finally get it. They never will, because understanding was never the goal, control was. The Stoics had a phrase, amor fati, love of fate. Applied here, it becomes something harder, the love of being misunderstood, not wallowing in it, but genuinely not needing it fixed. The people who belong in your life will stay without requiring a constant explanation of who you are. The ones who leave because you refuse to over-justify yourself were never there for you. They were there for access. What grows in that space is something you can't get from outside yourself, a kind of interior confidence that doesn't need weather reports from other people's opinions. You move, you decide, you don't wait for witnesses. People assume the loudest voice in the room holds the power. That's an amateur read. The loudest person is performing, and performance is a form of need. They require the room's attention to feel real. That need, regardless of how aggressively it is expressed, is weakness. The person with actual power controls the temperature, not the volume. They speak less but with weight. They walk into rooms without announcing themselves. They ask questions far more than they make statements, because the person asking questions is quietly steering the conversation while appearing merely curious. The person making statements is already defending a position, and you should never defend ground you didn't need to claim. When you consistently operate this way, something subtle shifts. People start reading your reactions before forming their own. You become the reference point in the room, not because you demanded it, not because you performed for it, but simply because you stopped chasing it. The most consistently exploited people are the ones searching outside themselves for something that can only be built inside. Approval, affection, acknowledgement. They are not living, they are fundraising for their own sense of self,
and anyone who recognizes that can set whatever price they want. The deepest work is interior, and it takes time. What the Stoics called the inner citadel, a private, fortified core that doesn't need to check the weather outside to know what it is. Read things that challenge you. Build something with your hands or your mind. Master something for its own sake. Develop a philosophy you actually chose rather than inherited. When your inner world is rich enough, the outer world's opinions become genuinely redundant. That's when you become unreachable in the truest sense. Not because you built walls, walls can always be climbed, but because you built inward, and what is inside is so self-sustaining that external validation simply stops being necessary. This is not arrogance. Arrogance is still fragile.